Good old days. All right, we're on. Perfecto. We're on.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're live streaming on Facebook and YouTube, so we're never off the air. So even at the breaks, just know that we're still being watched. Phones on stun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we're on in about a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so real quick with time cues. Oh yeah, we're on in 1 minute.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so time cues. If you see me do this, this means wrap it up.
Okay.
10 or 15 seconds, I got it back. If you hear music,
Absolutely.
we got 30 seconds to commercial. I got to get it back. If during the monologue that you're doing, you'll have about 4 minutes, so I'll give you 3, 2, 1, and this means 30 seconds, so that better than wrap it up, so you actually have 30 seconds to finish, you know, really,
Right,
to cap
exactly.
it. And if you ever see me hold up a finger or two, that's a minute or 2 minutes of, hey, take that about that much time before you hand it back to me.
Okay.
But that's so that we can, you know, we can keep the
Yeah.
banter going. And otherwise, because it's just voice,
Uh-huh.
like, it be over the top, like have an intensity, because voice is carrying everything. So all
Right.
emotion,
Okay.
everything.
Okay.
It'll feel a little unnatural, but it'll sound right at the
Okay.
end.
Well, right on.
Okay. Welcome to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer. And today is Tuesday, so guess what? Politics and Government Tuesday, or government and politics and government and politics. It's all mixed together, especially post-election. And we always did this. Tuesdays was always our government and politics day. But if you're just started tuning in to us in October, basically you heard, you know, government and politics all the time because, hey, that's what we were interested in. But now we're getting back to more of the flow of the Peak. And what do we do here at the Peak? Well, our job is to be local stories told by local citizens, supported by local businesses. That's why we call it hyper-local news and hyper-local news talk. And why do we need that? Well, I've known for a long time we needed it, but I think people are waking up. If you looked at the elections and those debates, and those people that were supposed to be moderators, who were professional, supposedly professional news people, you saw what has become of the media. If you were tracking, especially the last few weeks of the elections, as all the rhetoric and the hyperbole and everything of fascism and Hitlerism and all this stuff, and then suddenly when it was over, it was like, oh, we're good now, and what was going on. So the media, as I talk about a lot, they were the big loser in the elections. They've gotten to the point now where basically nobody trusts them, and that's horrible, because what do we do in a society where we don't have truth, we don't have facts, we don't have anything? It's very, very hard to be free when you don't have that. And so back in January, we started this little project here called the Peak News, and the goal of it is to bring real journalism, saying the quiet stuff out loud, to the Pikes Peak region. And we invite you to be part of it. Yes, it's not just me talking to you, but we would love you working with us and talking to the good people of our region. Go to thepeak.news and find out how to be a citizen journalist or an intern, a guest, a tech, a sponsor. Maybe you want to do something else. I don't know, but if you know that there are too many stories to possibly tell just in our region, and we would love you to help with that. So go to thepeak.news. And as I mentioned our sponsors, I will mention and do a shout out to our platinum sponsor, Springs Dentist and Dr. Craig Summer, Holistic Dentistry in Colorado Springs. They're our family dentist. and check them out. And check out all of our sponsors. As you will hear commercials running throughout, know that we are not bought and paid for by any kind of big corporations or anything. It's all small businesses that are bringing this to you as a community service because they understand that we need to have good media, we need to have good journalism in order to be free and to run our businesses. And as I like to say to people, where was the media during COVID? And where are they now as far as representing all of us? And we know that they're failing. But you know what? Let's fix it here at home. Well, with the elections, we have a whole slew of new representatives, people who are new to their positions. Maybe they've never run before, maybe they were in some other position. And we have with us here on Government and Politics Tuesday as our guest and co-host throughout the entire program, Cory Applegate. He's a current Fountain City Council member, and he's one of our new county commissioners representing District 4, but now representing all of us. So he's county commissioner-elect, and he's on the program today talking about the local elections as well as what he plans to accomplish as commissioner. Cory Applegate, welcome to the Peak.
Thanks for having me on, Chaim. I appreciate it.
Yeah, congratulations on your win. I've known you for a while, and I know that you've had this on your heart, and it was a hard fought going out there and really working it. Tell us, what does a county commissioner do? What is it like legally through the Colorado Constitution, the El Paso County Constitution? Because people always go, why don't you do this? Go, you know what? That's not our role. This is our role. As far as your understanding, which it better be good.
Yeah, let's hope so.
what have you been elected to do here in El Paso County?
So, my big thing is, for now, budgeting. So, you set the budget for your county. You set your budget for your sheriff's office, your clerk and recorders. You make sure the fire stations are good, everything like that. That's underneath basically your county wing. So, your coroner's office, even your DA, they're responsible. You're responsible for their buildings, and you're responsible for building their budgets. About 40% of the job right now is land annexation. So when people want to rezone, when you go from residential to commercial, commercial to industrial, when people, they come and go from a city, they want to leave a municipality or they want to go into the city limits. That's the kind of thing where you're looking at. And so before I was on Fountain City Council, I was actually a planning commissioner for the city of Fountain. So I got maybe my big toe wet with that, just a little bit. So
and what do you think what's the biggest role of a county commissioner?
Biggest role of the county commissioner, honestly, just setting your budget, just making sure everything runs efficiently. We're in a very conservative county, so that can be hard sometimes.
Okay, so not interfering with our life. That's
exactly.
Good. That's good. I don't think that's in the Constitution. Exactly. Well, you're listening to The Peak. We have Cory Applegate, the county commissioner-elect here in El Paso County. We'll be back with headlines, but now we have Bill Federer and the American Minute. Remember that.
God gave us life, gave us liberty. Can the liberties of a nation be secure when we have removed the conviction that these liberties are the gift of God? Senator Byrd concluded, Jefferson's words are a warning that to remove God from this country will destroy it.
This has been an American Minute with Bill Federer. For a free transcript, call American Minute at 1-888-USA-WORD.
Take the drama out of your whole learning and selling experience while selling products.
Plug it in the computer.
Oh, okay. That sound all right? Terrible.
I'm not in there. I actually didn't really
okay.
hear you. But I bet you sound good.
Okay.
He does a good job of making you sound good. Cool.
The voice for TV, the face for radio.
Oh, shoot. Never put the camera on. Fire the camera, please. That's our sort of backup. Now I forgot to do that. Okay.
That's okay.
Well, we'd like to have the whole show on.
But we'll have the.
Oh, there we go.
Okay,
That's
you're
good.
Okay, cool. Okay, I gotta review these articles, and
Yeah.
we're back in about 2 minutes. Okay, let's see. Discard. This card. This card. Okay.
Or a refreshing intake of wine and cheese. Enjoy Vine and Wheel in downtown Colorado Springs. Carefully curated for wine and cheese lovers, foodies, ladies' night outers, midnight planners, and everyone in between. For both casual dining and private events. Their menu features the highest quality aged cheeses and wines, collectively complementing each other as simply and flavor. Every Wednesday through Sunday at 6:15 in South Colorado Springs. For more information, book your table, go to vineandcheese.com. These wine and cheese are meant to be enjoyed together.
Okay, 30 seconds.
Okay.
Welcome back to The Peak. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer, and this is Government and Politics Tuesday. And we have as our guest and co-host for the entire hour, Cory Applegate, current Fountain City Council member and one of our new county commissioner-elects from District 4. And we're going to be talking about local elections and, of course, what Cory plans to do as a county commissioner. Again, Cory, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Chaim. I appreciate it.
So this is our headline segment. This is where we check out some local headlines, and we do have some dirty laundry here post-election. And this is that Jarvis Caldwell, who ran and who won definitively for House District 20, going up to be part of the legislature, he came out last week criticizing the Republican Party for not supporting him as well as he thought that they should. He was saying they never even reached out to him after the election, and we've heard this here, throughout. We've had candidates who have been on the program. Vicki Tompkins, who heads up the Republican Party here in El Paso County. We've had Dave Williams on, and we keep getting different kinds of stories. We have ones where people say, I'm not getting any support. They're not sending me the lists. So that I can contact things. They're holding it back because I wasn't their favored candidate. And we saw that happen in this election cycle with the primaries, that the Republican Party, which traditionally does not support anybody or oppose until after the primaries, was doing that. We've had Vicki Tompkins in here defending that, well, it's not our role to do those certain things that people are asking. So from your personal experience, Cory, just running for county commissioner as the Republican candidate, what was your experience with the state and local Republican Party, and what would you consider to be an adequate or inadequate amount of support for you as a candidate?
Well, my race, it leans red about 15 to 20 points. People were telling me it was more like 10 to 12. I definitely was going to work very hard at it. I wasn't going to sit on my hands. I wasn't going to just take anybody lightly. The biggest thing was I didn't get a hold directly of the state, so I never was able to get a hold of like Dave Williams. But Darcy Schoen was the key to helping us with our campaigns. They were part of that Tidal Wave Red event. They were doing fundraisers for us. They were trying to help us where they could, getting on the weekly Zoom calls. So there was that support there from the state. It was a little bit, and I understand they had a lot of irons in the fires when you've got 65 state reps and you're just running all over the state and you're trying to like help all these different people, even with a couple that like dropped out last second. My biggest thing was county level, I felt like they could have maybe done a little bit more, but there was people. I met 2 gals just Saturday that said, hey, I was working with the county office and we walked for you. We carried your materials. We carried your lead. And I said, I appreciate that.
And that was organized through the county, El Paso
Yeah,
County.
through El Paso County, yeah. So,
and you didn't even know about it. It was just
right,
going on.
Right, and it just happened. Yeah, I left some flyers, I guess, at the office. I'd given them about 500 to 600, when I first started running, when I first got into my primary, or after my primary to the general. And so I'd like to have a little more communication next time around. I'd like to have a little more unity, a little more like, hey, let's everybody on the same page, so we're not walking the same precincts. But it definitely, there was some support from the county, but there could have been more for more races, and I think it could have helped.
Was there anything, did you reach out or anything, for getting, lists or anything like that? Is there money that sometimes comes from the party?
Right. Well, as a general rule, when they do a Lincoln Day banner, they do try to help, like, especially the state reps in, like, the heavily contested districts. They try to give them what little support they can. So if they make, like, thousands of dollars off of a fundraiser or an event like that, they try to throw them a couple hundred if they can. $450 is a max donation right now for a state rep. So the party can always throw that in at any point. And so I felt like, there could have been more in that sense, but, I didn't need their help for the list. I had my, my data, I had everything I'd gone through. I talked to different people. I had a good volunteer base behind me. My volunteer group was awesome. They were vital. They were just a group of activists I just reached out to, most of them being precinct leaders, and we call them the Apple Orchard, and they did a great job. Just helping with walking and talking and doing the events. So
okay, so overall, sort of neutral. Like, you could have always used more, but you didn't feel you had a bad experience as a candidate with the.
Yeah, that's always how it is. You could run for Congress and have $1 million in your bank account. You want $1 million more, so you can reach more people.
But also, as far as money, because we're coming in for Longinos Gonzalez, who is term limited. Pretty strongly, chance that the Republican candidate is going to win in that, the money generally goes elsewhere to things that are closer.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's get on to a second issue. Now, this is a city, so Colorado Springs, and in case you're just tuning in, we have Cory Applegate, who is El Paso County Commissioner-elect, representing District 4 and now representing all of us in El Paso County. The ballot initiative for rec marijuana here, there were 2. One was 300 to allow medical shops to become recreational marijuana shops. There was 2D to say, no, it can't happen. By the current count, it's looking like 2D is failing. It was looking at one point that they were both going to win, which was going to be interesting.
Right.
But 2D is looking like it's losing. 300 that it's winning. The city council has already knew before the election, even saying, hey, we're going to make some what some people might think would be interfering with the election by saying, no, it's not 1,000 feet, it's a mile to sensitive areas, which basically box out the whole city, because what is not a mile away from at least a school or a church or whatever would be limited. So I know this is specifically a city issue, but of course Colorado Springs falls within the county. Right. So what is your position, regarding rec marijuana in our region? What kind of effect do you think is going to be, and how do you think that this is going to might work itself out? It's certainly going to be, there's most likely going to be lawsuits and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. It's not going to be settled soon.
Right. We got to, and we got to keep the attorneys paid and fed.
Yeah, well, the lawyers always end up with the money, right?
Oh man,
that's always, no matter what.
Just on days that end in Y. So I'm not going to speak for the entire commission, but where I sit on the issue personally, so I'm on Fountain City Council. We border Fort Carson, especially my district, my ward. My ward butts up right against Fort Carson. The base commanders have been pretty adamant and said, please, don't go full recreational in the city of Fountain. Like, if you want to make it medicinal, where somebody has a red card, they have a medical condition, they've got leukemia, they've got brain cancer, it's terminal, and they just need it for easy pain, it's totally fine. But they look at it like, if the soldiers, the men and women that are serving in the military, want to drive 4 towns over to get marijuana, well, they're probably going to get it anyway, but don't make it right there on the doorstep, don't let it walk down the street. So that's where we've always sat on that issue is, I look at it like, if a medicinal shop wants to open up, usually no issues. Recreational's a whole different animal, a whole different monster. And so I think they've got to be careful with that footage thing, because we've brought that up. We're actually talking about that right now in city council, how footage is. So like if you have something like adult entertainment or like a liquor store, how are, if you give them 1,000 feet buffer, how could you not do the same with another vice? I mean, because if you go further than that, you go more than say like 1,500, like you go 2,000 or 3,000 feet, or you want like a whole mile. They could always cry foul, and they could say that's you're being unfair, you're being unjust with your decisions there. And that's again, that opens it up to just another lawsuit and more lawyers and.
So the city council has to watch where they tread now, especially if they had won, it would have been different. But with potentially, that's looking like the loss. Okay, so as we're finishing up, there's an article, Colorado Politics, Youth Voter Turnout in Colorado Nearly Double National Average. According to a report from New Era, 69% of 18 to 34-year-olds in Colorado voted in the recent election, which is nearly double the national average of 42 to 44%. I don't know who's doing the math here. It's not nearly double, but it's still it's about 25 points up there, and it's credited that most likely the constitutional abortion passed because of all the youth vote. You're 33 years old.
Yeah, so, 33 years old. So
you're in this zone. We have about a minute left. Comment about the youth vote and what you did to court it here.
Right, to court it. My side, I was courting it because I used the money issue. I told everybody, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" That was my thing that I ran on. Now, I mean, you hate to see that to be the big reason, the primary reason why there was younger people that turned out was because of the abortion issue. It's it's sad because now it's enshrined in our Constitution, and it's going to be something that I don't know if we can ever reverse or change. So my personal views aside, I mean, I like to see the idea that younger people are coming out and voting. That's good. I want younger people. I want everybody to participate in these elections and get out and vote their conscience. But at the same time, I mean,
what brought them out?
Right,
may have been better issues. Yeah.
Right, and it's just a bummer that was the central issue, and that it wasn't something like, hey, look what's going on with the economy, look what's going on with my roads, look what's going on with the direction of our state.
Okay, you're listening to The Peak. Hi, I'm Goldman the Watchman. We're here with Cory Applegate, new county commissioner-elect here in El Paso County. When we come back, Cory is going to be talking about solutions to the local immigration crisis. We'll be right back. Cool. Okay, we got 3.5 minutes, so you can, if you want to review your notes and things like that. Remember, I'll be giving you the time cues. Keep the energy up. If for some reason you run short, I'll come up with a follow-up question, so you don't need to feel you need to stretch, but you might as well use the time. You'll have about 4 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
To message the way that you would like.
Tom Hammond is the guy that he was he's the border czar now for Trump, right? Correct? That's the one.
Hammond.
Is
it Hammond?
Holman,
I think it is.
Holman. Okay. I wanted to mention
let's make sure.
Right, because you brought up a good point with the legal asylees. That you use port of entry. You know what I mean?
Because it's looking like people in certain states are going to be trying to resist him, and he's going no.
Right.
Let's see. Holman, Holman.
Okay, cool. Are you gonna have Jarvis on after Rebecca?
I've
Maybe air that. You know,
we've been reaching out to him. He's not got back to us.
Oh, okay.
In fact, that's why we were delayed. Well, first it was Rebecca, and then I wasn't sure about that, and then when the
Right.
Jarvis thing hit, I was like, let's get Jarvis on, and I've been calling him, and Zach's been calling him, and he's not getting back to me for some reason. So,
Okay.
so maybe the GOP did call to congratulate him, and he didn't pick up. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then when the recount happened, I'm like, wow, 7 votes. So then I was trying to get Rebecca. Then I was trying to get Rebecca in today. We were going to have you next week, but then they called her up to legislature for training yesterday. So.
Oh, okay. So she'll probably go like next week or whatever. So okay. Cool.
Welcome back to the Peak. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman, and answering our musical question. No, we're not here to lie to you because, you know, that's what the rest of the media is doing. And so we wouldn't be unique at all. And we want to be unique. We want to be your hyper-local news source here in El Paso County. And as I always like to thank our sponsors because they pay the bills around here. We have a new sponsor this week, Dad's Donuts. Contemporary twist on traditional donuts, downtown Colorado Springs. Go to dadsdonuts.com for more information. Dad's Donuts, only the good stuff. Well, in this section, we've asked Cory Applegate, who's the new county commissioner. I like to do in this section say, you know, what would you like to talk about? What's really, you know, on your heart here? Give you a few minutes to give sort of an op-ed piece or a rant, but I don't know if Cory has rants in him or not. But he said, you know, I did an op-ed piece in the Gazette not too long ago called "Solutions to the Local Immigration Crisis." So that's what he'd like to talk about. Cory Applegate.
Yes. And so an issue that kept coming up right after my assembly, right after March and April, everybody saw these illegal crossings and they went, oh my gosh. They were like, Cory, how bad is this going to be? They said, what can you do as a commissioner? As some of us know, our county has a non-sanctuary status, so we won't harbor illegals. We won't use, like, you know, the taxpayer funds to push any of that out there. But I wrote an op-ed in May, late May, and it was about the immigration issue. And so we had the status of our county, and we're seeing about 8,000 crossings a day. I mean, right now, Denver is not, they're not non-sanctuary. They're sanctuary. They'll take care of them. And right now, as of last year, they had handed out $136 million in free health care. And these are people that there's no steady income. They don't have insurance. They're never getting that money back. They come in for care. It's life-threatening. They have to work on them, and they walk out the door, and they never come back. And so I told everybody, I said, look, that's Denver's problem. So right there, that was my first solution was if we have a bus coming to town, send the bus back. Simply put, if nobody on there has citizenship, push it out. So that was my first point that I made there. Second point was with our status. So we're non-sanctuary, right? But I think we could go a step further. Sheriff Mescal up in Teller County, he actually pushed for the ICE detainment agreement, which puts it where if somebody comes here illegally and they break the law, they commit a felony, they go to jail, they get locked up. That's federal dollars. That's not our community. That's not city. That's not the county paying for it anymore. So you've got the federal dollars going to it. A lot of times, people are wanted in other countries. And so when they go on that ICE detainment, they get detained. The other country goes, well, we want them back. Deport them and we'll bring them and we'll put them in jail here. And so it's not even our money, then our taxpayer money going to any of it. And so I think that's a really good solution, and I'd like to see that come back. I know that he was at a war with the ACLU, and they sued him back, and they took his status away. He wanted to keep it, and he's trying to fight right now back with it. And I want to support our law enforcement. I want to support our local sheriff's office if I can, and say, yeah, we need to bring this back because this is something that we don't want the dollars coming out of our community. We want it to be federal dollars, and then if they're wanted in another country, they can go back to that country of Oregon and sit in a cell there. The other solution I had was the camping ordinance. I wanted to put a camping ordinance out there where you had to apply for a permit. We need citizenship to get it. And so that way they would lose that status. So one of my biggest things too, I found out when I was out walking and talking, this was maybe just a couple months before the general election was over. I was talking to a constituent about this, and she brought up a really good point. She said, 20 years ago, people used to come here in this country, and they used to come here and just want a job. They just wanted to make money. So they could send it back home, and they'd go back to their country of origin in the end. Now, they come here and they have their hands out. They just want a handout. They want the free cell phones. They want the free housing. They want the free health care. A lot of these people just have their hands out, and it's really is disgusting because here I am, like people like me, who's blue collar. I'm working every day. I'm trying to make a living. and they're just coming, they're just getting free stuff, and they don't even have citizenship. And I'm like, how is this fair? The other safety, it kind of ties in with public safety as well too, with this issue, because look at the Venezuelan gangs up in Aurora. So our own DA has said, you know, you got to be, you know, we might have that presence here, but they're definitely quiet. They're not running around packing guns in the hall, and that's because of our non-sanctuary status. They drove through Colorado Springs to get up there. They didn't stop in our town, minus using the gas station. And so I think that public safety aspect of it was really what, you know, like our presence from our sheriff's office, our commissioner saying we're non-sanctuary status, and a DA that says, I will prosecute if I find this in my county.
And certainly with the new, you know, election now, and Tom Holman as the ICE director and
Right.
everything, and now the federal government is, you know, going to completely reverse position on this. But, you know, once
Yeah.
people are in the state, if you can't stop and frisk, if you can't ask for
Yeah.
papers, if ministries that are here are trying to assist out of the goodness of their heart, this is a problem. It's a problem, but I guess the county's going to be working with the state, and we'll see how that works moving forward.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Goldman the Watchman. You're listening to The Peak, and we'll be back after the short break with Cory Applegate, Commissioner-elect. Cool. This is just a 2-minute break.
Yeah,
So we're back.
okay,
So we're on to 4.
okay.
So this is really the interview segment. So again, you have about 2.5, maybe 3 minutes an answer
Okay.
On average, and
That's plenty of time, 2 minutes. is
move,
plenty of time.
you move through it. But when you're, do what you want, take it back. I can always ask a follow up, but we're gonna do your give your background. You can go as far back as you want. What that does is, who are you? Establishing authority. You mentioned your businessman. Now I guess you're gonna be the county commissioner. It's a pretty good check, but
Yeah.
but what you were doing before, what's your background, why you became a Fountain city council person, so give that background, sort of your ethos.
Right.
Then we'll get into philosophy of government, role of government, talk about the Amara project and
Right.
developer influence, and then finish up with the big issues that you want to address.
Right.
What's your day one?
Yeah.
That kind of thing when you. So there's going to be 3 new county commissioners, right?
Two.
Two.
Geithner gets a second term.
Here she got to. All right.
Yeah,
so there were
yeah,
3
so,
offices running.
Yeah, but then
So
there's-
Bill.
but
So
then
that's Bill. What Bill?
Bill Weiss on
Right.
me and Bill Weiss on the other. And so yeah, Stan Vanderwerf and Lehinos are both out of here there.
Because it's basically been the same for 8 years, right? I mean, has it been the same?
There's been 4 of the 5 there for the last 6 years.
6
And then
years.
Kerry Geithner replaced Mark Waller, who didn't run for a second term.
Right, okay,
He ran
right.
for our DA,
Okay.
and then she replaced him, and then she's been in there now for 4 years. So.
Okay.
Yep. And now Stan and Lehinos are finally going away, but it's they've
Right.
been.
So it's basically been the same commission for,
Yeah.
will we say 6 years?
Yeah.
6 years, so
Same
basically the
commission
same.
for about 6 years. Yeah.
Okay.
4 of the 5 have been there, so 80% for 6 years.
Okay, very good. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The answer here at the Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud. Why do we do that? Well, that's what the media is supposed to do. We're supposed to highlight the good. We're supposed to call out maybe the not so good. Overall, we're supposed to provide transparency, accountability to our community. But as we've all seen, the media has become quite partisan, has checked out. But we're taking it back. We'd love to do it nationally, but we got to start here at home. So please join us here at the Peak. Go to thepeak.news and decide, hey, I'd like to be a citizen journalist. Maybe a young person who'd like to be an intern. We've started a nonprofit, the Peak News Educational Foundation, to bring journalistic ethics and media vocational training program into the local schools. We envision an entire remake of the journalistic ecosystem, put it back on its footing where it is serving the public and not special interest. And so we have someone in front of us today who's a politician, who's a government official now, he was a government official in Fountain, now for the county. Cory Applegate, currently Fountain City Council member. Were you terming out, or are you going to have to resign, or what's your deal with your position?
Yeah, my current position, I'm going to have to resign next month.
Because you still had some years left on there?
I had 1 year left in the
okay.
term, but it was I was going to be up next year anyway. So
okay, so resigning. Fountain City Council member, one of our new county commissioners, elected out of District 4, Cory Applegate. And so, Cory, give us your background professionally and personally, and why did you decide to get into local politics?
Yeah, well, I mean,
And governance.
Yeah, I don't know because I'm a
Yeah, you're trapped. You're crazy.
I'm a little bit crazy. Yeah. So no, so I worked a lot of just blue collar jobs in my life. I'm a journeyman electrician by trade, and so I built a lot of hospitals in this town. Currently doing maintenance out of Fort Carson right now, so I play Mr. Fix-It for the soldiers. They break a light, and I come out and work on it. Right now, yeah, Ward 3, City Council for the City of Fountain. I think a lot of that inspiration by the first time I ran was the influence from my father. So he spent 8 years on City Council, and I ran his re-election campaign in 2019. And of course, you're around all these activists and all these people that play in the local politics game, and they kept putting the bug in my ear going, hey, Cory, you know.
You have the same name.
Yeah, 2 of the people that ran against your father are on the planning commission. Why don't you start there? Start with a volunteer board. Get your feet wet. See if you're interested. You know, hey, your ward councilman, he's termed in 2 years. You should consider this. And I'm like, well, I'm still in school. And you always have your doubts, but at the end of the day, I was like, I always got that positive, path going forward, and I kept thinking, like, I can do this, this is so.
And name recognition is big.
That is
so,
big.
Yeah, it is big in politics. It shouldn't be, but Applegate.
They do.
Yeah, so I understand politically why they reached out to you, but why did you decide to run for county commissioner?
So I wanted to serve in the highest capacity. My biggest reason is I'm Ward 3 City Council for the City of Fountain. I border Fort Carson, Colorado Springs, and the unincorporated areas. I have people all the time, they call me, they're just outside of my district, just outside of my ward, and they're like, I need help with this problem. Okay, let's find a solution. Let's see who we can call, let's see who we can email, let's see what contact we can find. And so I do that, it seems like, every once in a while somebody trickles in that they just need help fixing something. They didn't know who else to go to. So I was there to assist with that, and I thought, I could do this. I could serve at this higher capacity and be good at it. I've managed budgets before. I've had experience with the land annexation on my short time on planning commission in Fountain. So I saw that as a path moving forward.
Okay. So you are replacing the seat that's currently held by Lampinas Gonzalez, who's term limited. What is your overall philosophy of governance? You ran, and were you primaried? Where did you compete in the primaries?
Yep. It was. I had an assembly opponent. I had primary opponents, and yeah.
Right.
And
so, but you ended up with the Republican nomination, running for this seat. What's your philosophy of governance?
So my philosophy of governance is, first you should look at the Bible. Is it morally right, or is it okay to do it there? And then the second thing you should check is what's written about it in the Constitution. Is there a definition of it? Is it defined some way? Is it not? Is it open for interpretation? But the big thing is with your issues, if you follow God and you have a good heart, I truly believe at the end of the day you'll make the right decisions. And it'll be good, it'll be conservative, it'll serve your constituents well. And that's what people want to see at the end of the day.
In looking over, as you've been, studying, the county commission for the past, 6 years, has basically been the same people for that period of time. Now you and Bill Weissong are coming in as the newbies here. How have you seen them playing their role, and what do you think could be done better as a body here?
As a body, well, actually, I've already brought up the point, because I have a construction background, about using commission dates in the county. I said it seems like when we do construction, when we do stuff out of house and we contract out, it seems to take a long, long time. And I said, why is that? And so I've actually kind of got the conversation started already with the county administrator to say, hey, so what if we do commission dates? What if we do everything? I understand commission dates where
what is that?
You have to have project done by a certain amount of time. If you go more than 24 hours over, we start charging you. So
they don't care. They don't care it.
No,
they don't have that. Everybody does that because we all
know
it's 2 weeks, another 2 weeks.
Right,
but in the county we don't find.
Well, no, we do for the bigger projects, but even he said some of the smallers get exceptions, and I said, why not everybody? Why not across the board? I understand if we break a door handle and we need a service guy to come out within a few days, that's a day fix. But when you're talking about repaving whole roads, if it's a 2-month project, give them 3 months and tell them you go more than 24 hours over, you owe us. It's not a matter of money anymore. It's not like if it's over $1 million project, then we'll start charging you, but it's under that, we do less, no. And so I want to really stress that, and put the hard commission dates on everything and just say, hey, if we're paying a pretty penny for this job to be done, please do it and do it on time.
Okay. So, you're coming into this, you have a record of how you've been a city councilman, and one of the big things that really involves the county and the whole area was the Amara and specifically La Plata projects there in Fountain. Give us a quick background on that. What were the issues, and where did you find yourself with the commission and the voting and that?
Yeah, so when I was on city council, right out the gate, I got this one. It was like I hadn't even been sworn in yet, and they were telling us, they bringing us into the office and saying, we got to go over this with you because it's going to get hairy. And so, as we know, the Amara project, they wanted to build out there. There was a desire, but they want to annex into Colorado Springs because Colorado Springs will provide them water. The county won't. The county will tell them you have to go get your own water. La Plata was the other district. That was the plot that was annexed into Fountain originally. And so the developer had sat on site plans for 9 years and then decided to come in one day, snap their fingers and say, I need water tomorrow. And we said, hold on, that was never original part of the agreement. Let's talk about this. And they said, well, if you can't provide soon, I want out of city limits. But they had an agreement, they had a contract. So they brought it to the council, and so we got that decision right out the gate. And I was one of the 4 that voted no, said you can stay within the city. You're going to build like a fountain outside of Fountain, basically is what you had planned. You're going to stay within the city, you're going to honor your agreement, and we're going to work with you to get the water, but it's just not going to happen instantaneously.
Well, what do you say to people? A lot of people say that all the government officials in this area are in the pockets of the developers, and all of that influence that came up in city council recently, Dave Donaldson.
Right.
So what has been your experience as a candidate, as an elected official dealing with the developers? Have there been those who expected favors? What happened during this campaign? I don't want you to necessarily name names. Oh, you can if you want, but you probably shouldn't.
Let's not.
Let's not. But what's your personal experience? Should people be concerned that there's an undue influence here or an expectation of developers controlling our area?
Well, the developers have a vested interest. I mean, obviously they're capitalists. They have a desire to build. But me personally, nobody's come to me and said, hey, I'm going to throw something at you shiesty within the first year and I just need you to push it through. I've even had one say straight to them, forward in my face, say, you need to be my rubber stamp. And I've told them straight to their face, said, I'm not your rubber stamp. And so I look at it like we need to have a conversation about honest, sensible development. If it's not honest, if it's not sensible, we don't need to push it forward. And I'll be a no vote every time if I see that. But if I see it as sensible as we can do it, and there's a way to do it right, and we can do it all legally, and it's going to benefit everyone and benefit our community, then I'm open to that conversation.
So what about the development? I mean, I sort of jokingly say on the radio here, hey, Colorado, we're closed. If you're not here already,
right.
Go somewhere else. Because, I mean, they're building everywhere, obviously, water. They say whiskey is for drinking and water is for fighting, right? Like, I mean, what are we going to do with all of this development, all the people? It just seems never ending. Do we have this infrastructure in place to be able to handle this?
That's another big issue that I'd run on was the infrastructure stuff. And so, especially when there's developments, when they're coming in and they haven't even built those roads yet, not only do we need to tell those contractors we need roads built for these developments, but you've got to put forward the improvements. You've got to help on some of the main thoroughfares, the traffic that'll create. I mean, it's cyclical. I know there's a lot of people coming and going. We've actually, as City of Colorado Springs, they've only seen about a 1% increase in the last 2 years with everybody coming and going. But it's still an increase. We're still seeing more people come here even in the last couple of years than there was before. And so I think it's going to be an important thing for your city council members, your county commissioners to tell the developers, look, if you're going to build, we need the following improvements, otherwise it's a no deal every time.
Okay, and in the next segment we'll spend a little bit more time on infrastructure because it's a big thing. It's not just the land and the water, it's a lot. But in the last couple of minutes we have in this segment, what do you see as the biggest issues in our county that you need, day one you need to start addressing here? What are your points?
But probably the 2 biggest that I'd come up with is the public safety and the infrastructure. The public safety could even be tied in with the immigration issue, but also I actually spoke with one of my opponents recently from the general election, and they said, look, there's just like a lack of presence in the south end of the county from the sheriff's office. They said people are just not seeing it. They said maybe they're there, maybe they're the guardians and they're always there, but we're not seeing those, that presence we like to see. And I think the other big issue is the infrastructure. Obviously, there's a lot of roads. There was a lot of just poor management and a lot of things that were done 20 years ago. And I know the standards have changed within the last 2 decades. And so we're trying to not only, as city council, you're trying to build better roads you build now, and then you're trying to maintain the stuff that's literally falling apart. And you had no way, you couldn't go back. You can't go back and get in the time machine 15 years ago and say, hey, we need this built better, and from what time it was. So.
Okay, 30 seconds. What vision for the county? What's your vision?
Vision for the county. Keep moving forward. Make this a conservative bastion. Make it affordable for the people. I mean, raise decently. And if we're going to continue to grow, let's grow sensibly, and let's do it within our bounds. Within our borders. The area we have around. We really truly live in a beautiful state. I don't want to see them leveling every tree. I don't want to see them running all the the endangered animals off and everything. I really truly want to.
And Colorado Springs has its own vibe, and as a lot of people say, we shouldn't become just another Denver. So we need to hold on to our vibe. So thank you. Well, for more information with Cory Applegate, CoryApplegate.com, CoryApplegate.com. When we come back, we're going to spend a little bit more time on this infrastructure in our final segment with one of our new county commissioners, Cory Applegate. You're listening to The Peak. I'm the Watchman. We'll be right back.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
Great.
You liking it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I sort of prematurely asked that question about infrastructure. So
Okay. No, you're
where can we take this that isn't redundant? How can we get a little bit deeper into infrastructure without being too wonky?
Say this. So say I touched on water briefly. Say, and I want to hear more about like your views on the infrastructure because it's not just roads. You said it's not just roads.
Okay.
Say you work a job right now where you're maintenance out of Fort Carson. Say you're working directly with DPW, correct? And then I'll be like, yeah, I'll be like, yes, I do. I do utility work basically. And then go, okay, say what does that entail in the county level? And then I can kind of go into like detail with, the 300-year water rule for the county. How county doesn't, they're not water providers. They don't just like, oh, we have all these reservoirs you can just tap. It's no, you have to go out and find the water. That's what we ask for the developers.
Okay. Yeah, I took
Come on,
this segment and put it into your interview, and now because we also talked about handling the growth also.
That too.
So so we already handled that. So what? We still have a couple minutes to decide this. So where can we go secondarily on?
We talk public safety. Say also
Public
say
safety.
earlier. Say you had said public safety. Say what do you see as the like a big thing moving forward?
Okay.
And then I can bring up like how they're building the satellite substation in Falcon right now to have a better presence on the east side. So I know that's still a ways from my district, but that'll help the presence on the like in that area. The east of Mark Shuffle, south of 94. So along 94 there we got Rush and Ellicott and everything.
So do you? Other than police, what do you see? Or sheriff, what do you see the public safety?
Well, there's your fire districts. You got to maintain your fire districts, and so and so there's still a lot with those ends. So.
Okay. Shoot, I pulled the trigger prematurely on that.
No, you're good.
That's good.
No, it's okay. Like I said, we'll talk a little more about infrastructure. We can go on. I can talk a little, especially the water side. I can talk about the water side.
And who makes those deals, like selling the water? Is that's from the state level?
Yeah, usually the developers, they'll reach out to Denver and find out what aquifers the state owns, and then say, can we tap it and what's the price? And then they'll literally sell them water if they have a
okay. And as far as selling other states our water and things like that too, is that?
Well,
that's
what's
the
weird
governor.
Is, that's the governor. Yeah, it's the governor, and we're contractually obligated on those deals. I just found that out recently. We're contractually obligated to give that water to Nebraska, to give that water to California. It was a deal that got brokered in like the 50s and 60s. So unless our governor wants to get us out of it, we have to continue.
Okay, why don't we talk about that? Because I think water is a big deal.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that. Yeah, that's how there has to be so many gallons a day poured through the South Platte. There has to be so many gallons per day go to California.
Welcome back to The Peak. Hi, I'm Goldman the Watchman. We have Cory Applegate with us, County Commissioner-elect for El Paso County. And, have you ever gone to a county commissioner meeting? I would recommend that you go down there. First of all, it's a beautiful building, and it's being paid for by tax money, so you should go down there. It's a great building, and it's a great room for that. And, you can go down and you can make public comment. And so now, Cory, when I come down from now on, I want my full 3 minutes, and don't come in. Even grab me another. Sometimes I'm long-winded, so I want to. That I'm going to ask of you.
There you
go. give me fair time. I used to go down there a lot more, but now that I have a microphone here, I just come here and I say what I need to, and hopefully the county commissioners will pay attention. But infrastructure is really what it's about. Government is supposed to be making sure that the roads are maintained. That we have the basic stuff. They're not supposed to be interfering in our lives, and also standing up against things that the state might do, which are, which can be real overreach. We experienced that during COVID. And overall, the county commissioners were okay. I didn't like the answers of like, we don't have the power to do that, or and I was like, well, why do you have this building if you don't have any power? So, so I don't want to hear that from you this time around. I'm just laying that out. But the water issue is huge. We have a good amount of water in this state, but we sell it to other states and everything. So can you give us some background, what you've learned as you've been researching that, so people, understand the water issue here and why we think we maybe can keep having more developments and more people.
Right, and that's what always concerns the constituents, and even like the precinct leaders within the party, they always bring that up. There's so much development, where are they getting the water? What's the water coming from? So the first line of that is the county is not a water provider. They're not like City of Colorado Springs, they're not like City of Fountain, they don't tap reservoirs, they don't have all this water they can just give to you. And so you have to go out a lot of times as a developer and find that water. And so a lot of times when they do that, they talk to Denver, they talk to the state and say, what aquifers do you have? Is there a surplus? Can we tap it, and how much? And so a lot of times Denver's the one that sells them water for these developments. The county actually has a 300-year water rule, which is it's one of the most conservative, conservation-friendly water rules in the county. So if you go to build a development, you have to take based on the law of averages, whatever homes, whatever apartments, whatever you're building, and you have to have a surplus of 300 years set aside when you go to build that development. And
wow,
so
we have a lot of water. Huh?
Right. Well, they better get a lot of water if they're gonna build. So if they want 200 houses and they can get to 150 years, well, they can cut the development in half. And so typically that's what you see. Like in the county, the lots are a little more spread out. The houses aren't so tight together, and you don't get these neighborhoods that seem like it's like everything's packed in. And so that's definitely a precious resource there.
What else should people know?
Yeah. Well, we brokered deals back in the 50s and 60s, and I learned this on the campaign trail, and I've read the statutes and the deals that were negotiated from past governors, past people that worked in the state house, and basically we're obligated by law to give so much water per year to Nebraska. So they have to get there so much that has to flow out of the Platte River, just down the South Platte. There's so much water a year that has to go to California, so many per gallons. If we're under that limit somehow, they can fine us. They can actually sue our state and say,
how long are these contracts for? How long do they go on?
They go on for decades, and it seems like they just keep renewing them.
Okay.
And so
we could possibly
break.
them.
We could break if the state house was to get together and like they would get together with the governor and say we want to break from these deals, where we're not obligated to push, like so much water to get pushed through the South Platte every year to Nebraska. That would be a deal that it would need to happen, but it would need to come from the state house. And so I'd like to see that, I'd like to see a little more unity. I mean, water, we brought this up just in our last city council meeting in Fountain. In 20, 30 years, water is going to be probably more precious than gold, especially in the West. I mean, there's so much, just, you see these developments and you're like, wow, all that water and, man, big city, and you hear that, it's we're a high desert climate.
So how do you got just a short time left, so, you're going to have this challenge as county commissioner, you're going to have developers in front of you all the time. Who do you turn to for the information to know whether this can happen or not? The city planner or the planners?
Yeah, you got to trust your planners, and you got to trust your utilities department. You got to work with them and know that, like, hey, they've got the water set aside correct. Hey, can they do the utilities? Can they build it? Can they make sure the sewer lines are put in? They can do the improvements to the roads. That's a big part of it. So you definitely have to trust your city staff, and you got to know them well. And I'm starting to know them now good because I've been doing the onboarding. So.
Okay, Cory Applegate, County Commissioner-elect for El Paso County. Congratulations on your win, and look forward to seeing how you govern here. CoryApplegate.com is the website. Thanks, Cory.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And now, Jim Miller, Just a Guy, and the Peak Rants with his post-election wrap-up. So you're done. I have this, and then I have this, and then I have a 2-minute wrap-up after the commercial. So if you want to stick around and talk a little bit, if you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you want to do like a podcast recording? You were saying, did you want to do a podcast recording? You were saying.
Oh, that's right. We can do the bonus.
Yeah, if you want to do an interview in another room, we can.
Let me go check with you.
Yeah, now is a perfect time. So yeah.
I just want to hear it, Jim.
There you go.
There's the thing. I guess Club Q victims are now suing the county.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So that could have been something, but you really,
But that just
didn't really
broke
say anything.
Right, that just broke like yesterday that they were talking about. Yeah, they're coming after the county.
For
They're claiming it was a red flag thing. It was a health thing. They said they could have red flagged him and taken his guns, and they said also there.
so it's because of what the DA didn't do.
And more importantly, they said I guess the sheriff's office had been there before at one point for something else, like a domestic dispute, but they sorted it out. And they didn't feel the need to arrest. They didn't feel the need to bring anybody in. So they just sort of.
When I saw that, it blew by me. That might have been something
that could have been
tie into today because it's Club Q.
And the public
Well,
safety.
no, and it's Club, and we mentioned Club Q yesterday, but really today's the day. Okay, I missed that one. That would have been a good. I like to tie stuff in. Let me just go ask James
That's all right.
about doing this. Again.
Trust me.
So, we can do it. What is it you'd like to talk about? Because generally at this one, it's like, it can be ministry, it can be, it can be like something completely, it's you, but it's completely outside of the topic.
Let's do this. So you asked me why I originally ran, and I said I want to serve in the highest capacity. That's the business answer. I like to give the faith answer. To faith leaders, and so that's what. So
you want to do a segment about faith and things like that?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Talk about that. We could talk about it.
Okay, so think about, how we cover about 10 minutes,
Okay, yeah.
In that, talking about personal faith. So this then, when we have the podcast, there'll be like a bonus thing below it. So like it's a, we call it the peak elevated. So, we're seeing it as, at some point really start marketing it when we bank a lot of them and pushing people to the website. Okay, we're back. Well, you're not back, but you're welcome.
I'll listen. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for the peak on our Government and Politics Day. I want to encourage you to be involved. Now that we have these representatives, we're sending them off. Guess what? If you leave them alone for 2 years, guess what? Someone else has their ear. Someone else is lobbying them. Someone else is in front of them. And they may not agree. They may not have the same values as you. So regardless of who you are, what you believe, whether you voted them in or not, maybe you voted for their opponent, attend that county commissioner meeting, that city council meeting. Go up to the legislature. Check out what's going on. They really need you. They do. It's quite lonely up there. It's hard. They want to hear from people all the time. And again, if you're not talking to them, I guarantee you someone else is. So I want to encourage you to get involved and get involved with the peak. If you're thinking, the politics thing really isn't my thing, but I love telling stories. I want to report on stuff. If you like the politics, we could have you covering different meetings, but maybe you're more into arts and entertainment. Maybe you're into business. Whatever it is, we want you to join us at the Peak. Go to thepeak.news and help us say the quiet stuff out loud. Again, we're brought to you by local business sponsors, including Springs Dentist and Dr. Craig Summer, Holistic Dentistry in Colorado Springs, our platinum sponsor. We air Monday through Thursday, 3 to 4 p.m., so we'll be back tomorrow. Wednesday, Faith and Family Day, we have Pastor John Bornstein of Calvary Fellowship, Fountain Valley, and we'll be talking about what the election showed us about the state of the church in our region. It's not so good, but we need to talk about it and hopefully make it better. Thursday, we have Pete Schulerman, owner and director of the Schulerman Collective, talking about the local movie industry and his upcoming documentary film with Robin Wright called Hazed, Shedding Light on College Hazing. Coming up next here on The Answer is Larry Elder's show, so stick around for that, as well as checking out podcasts on thepeak.news. We're pushing 150 of them. You're sure to find one you like. The Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud. Help us say it even louder for such a time as this. Shalom. Okay. So we'll keep this rolling on the live stream. No, I guess the camera's up there, not on the computer. We're keeping this rolling on the live stream. We're doing something that we do called the Peak Elevated, which is to have our broadcast guests do a bonus segment to go on the website, but you can also catch it here on the live stream. So, James, let me know when you're ready. Okay, we're rolling? Okay. Okay, let me get sort of my notes up here. Okay. Can I start by asking you about sort of your faith background, how you grew up, things like that?
Sure.
Go into that? Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay. And I'm hitting it for 10 minutes. Welcome to the Peak Elevated. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman, executive producer and host of the Peak News broadcast. And here on the Peak Elevated, what we love to do, because we insist that our guests come into the studio. Not a lot of people like that, but we figure, you know, I do other shows where there are call-ins. It's hard to do an interview, and you know what? We're hyper-local here. So we're talking about local issues, everybody's local, so why not come into the studio and we can have a conversation, and that's what we do. And to honor that, we like to give our guests as much airtime as possible, but eventually the airtime runs out. So we have the Peak Elevated to give a bonus segment to talk about things that maybe aren't exactly in line. Sometimes they are. I sort of jokingly say, after the broadcast is over, I turn to the guest and say, what do you really want to talk about now that we're off the air? And so this is our website only, or live stream, if you catch us on the live stream, or Facebook or YouTube. And so on today's program, we had on our Government and Politics Tuesday, Cory Applegate, current Fountain City Council member and one of our new county commissioner-elect here representing District 4, now all of us. And we were talking about the local elections and his plans as county commissioner, things that he would like to address. And we touched on the faith issue, but when I asked Cory, what should we do in the bonus segment, he said, I want to give my faith answers to these questions, because we move, when we're on conservative news talk radio, certainly faith is fair game, but it's not like on the Bible stations that we have here at Salem. So Cory, what's your faith background? What was it, growing up? What were you introduced to? How did your family practice?
So I grew up in a loving Christian home, and I had a lot of influence from an early age on the Christian faith, going to Sunday school, going to church. I think it was 5 or 6. I was watching a program on now in the Jewish faith, when bar mitzvah, when a boy turns 13, he becomes a man, he goes through that as a Jewish faith. Started asking my parents some questions about the Bible, about Jesus, and said, I think I'm ready to accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. So
about 6?
Yeah. So, but yes, and 33 now, so about 27 years I've been believing, so Bible-believing Christian.
And any denomination, non-denominational?
It's funny, I grew up in Assemblies of God, but they were Pentecostal. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, but they didn't believe in speaking in tongues, which is kind of odd. I'm like, it's like a redneck that doesn't own a gun. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, how can you? So, no, but
that's why we have 45,000 denominations in this country.
And so a lot of that Pentecostal influence. I'm currently going to Assemblies of God now. They say they're non-denominational, but they're Assemblies of God, and they do believe in the Holy Fire. They do believe in speaking in tongues and the importance of getting with the Holy Spirit, and that's part of the Trinity.
Okay. So how does faith play a role in this choice that you made to be a public servant, now as a city councilman in Fountain, and very soon county commissioner in El Paso?
Right. So I had I give people 2 answers when I say, why do you want to run? And I said, first, the business answer is, I want to serve at the highest capacity. The faith answer was, So I was considering this decision, as soon as like maybe about a year and a half ago. So summer 2023, about May 2023 rolls around, and everybody's wondering, hey, are you going to run? I've even had the current commissioner approach me, said, hey, there's a rumor floating around that you want to run for my seat. And he said, are you, right? And he says, yeah. And he says, are you considering it? And I said, well, yeah, I'm definitely considering it. And he said, but are you going to run? And I said, I don't know. And I was really hesitant. And I had a friend who had called me, and he said, we had talked about this maybe about a year ago. He said, are you thinking about doing this or no? And I said, well, I'm weighing my options right now. And he said, you have an opponent that already filed an intent to run. I said, if you're going to declare, you need to declare like tomorrow. Said you need to like jump on this like sooner than later.
An opponent within a Republican.
Within the Republican, yeah, for the Republican Party, yeah. So somebody was already eyeing this, and I knew that was going to be a heavily contested assembly, heavily contested primary. So there was going to be a lot of competition. There could be at least a handful of people.
Because basically, it's assumed in that district, if you win the primary, you basically won the election.
Right, because you're looking at like a 10 to 20 point spread. So yeah, if you don't do anything, you'll probably lose. But if you do something,
you're really running for the primary more than anything else in that district.
Exactly. Yep. And so to declare early was definitely a good strategy on my part. But I sat there over that weekend. He called me on a Thursday, and I started like really praying about it, really getting with my faith and saying, God, should I stay? Should I go? Where am I at with this right now? Do I need to stay in my current seat? Do I take this leap and try to go for something that's like way higher, like a district we're talking that's like 12 times the size of what I have now? Huge, 1/5 of the county. And I kept hearing the words, everything I watched on YouTube, every thing I read, transcripts, and I kept seeing the words, stand next to fire. And then it was like God had spoken to me in that, like I don't know if it was in a dream or just when I had my eyes closed that night. And he said, are you ready to stand next to fire? And I think it was similar to when Von Miller heard in the Super Bowl, it's Miller time. And I kind of took that bull by the horns and just really ran with it. And I showed a lot of tenacity in this. And there was a lot of people that really, even they may have been rooting for my opponents, but they said, Cory's out there working harder than everybody else. He's really tenacious. He's really got a passion and a heart for this, and they could see that. And I guess the voters saw it too, because I won the primary and by 15 points. And so your community saw that. They really did. They saw the faith, they saw the passion, they saw my desire to try to make change. They're like, he's young, he's fiery, he wants to get out there and try to do something good for us.
Yeah, so how do you interpret that, standing next to the fire? What do you think that means?
I think it's a matter of, I was going to grow, I was going to change. I had to elevate where I was at. I was kind of just stuck. I was in a cush position, let's be honest. Maintenance out at Fort Carson, it was an easy gig, it was an easy job. But maybe I needed something that was a little bit more of a challenge. I needed to step out of my comfort zone, and God knew that. And there was a lot of things that made me really uncomfortable. My first few times speaking, I was terrified. My first few, you radio, TV, the first time you get on Randall, you're just scared, man. You're just like, oh, I'm about to pee my pants here. This is terrifying. Even just being on the phone with the guy, and it is, but it was through me pushing myself and me saying, I have a calling. I know I can do this. I had a couple people tell me I'm a man of destiny, so that was something I was reiterated.
Some prophetic spoken over you.
Right, and so I definitely had a line of, I knew I could be something better. I just had to change who I was. Stop being sub-average Cory and be something better.
So we're living in a world where there's always that challenge of, hey, you're a Christian, you shouldn't even run, you have no right to bring this in. How do you think this gets balanced? I mean, certainly the county commissioners are all Republican. They're all considered to be conservative. People might argue that, in a place where every other person is called a rhino. How do you see how faith plays into decision making in a way that's appropriate in someone who's a governmental elected official in a secular government?
I think it's a good basis to where your morals stand and where you go on your decision making. The founding fathers, they were influenced by the Bible. They wrote a constitution based on what it was said in the Bible. This was truly what they believed. These were God-given rights, as a citizen of this country. And I think that should always play as a part that you factor in in your decision making. There's nothing wrong with looking at it like, hey, what does the Bible say about this? What morally, where do I stand? Where is the Constitution on this? I mean, you look at it like the abortion issue, and it really just pro-life, 100%. 100%. You're ending someone's life out of a simple matter of convenience. And I see that as something moving forward. It's not something that the county commission deals with directly, but in my morals, I could never, be like, oh no, I'm okay with putting the Planned Parenthood clinic in the county. I'm okay with funding that. It would be something that morally I would be stricken. I'd be like, no, we need to discuss this issue in depth more.
I mean, there's talk of sanctuary city, abortion status here. I know that it's more, the city able to do it, but is there something that the county commissioners can do? I mean, I believe you can do ballot initiatives and things like that, but where do you see that as far as protecting life on a county level from the position you've been elected to?
I'd like to talk further with city staff or the county staff and see where they sit on the issue. And I think that actually, you can always propose. Your ballot initiatives. You can always do that. Like I said, it's not something we've seen directly, but I think that could be something going into the future that we could look at. Just trying to make sure that, we as a community, maybe we decide we want to protect life. Doesn't matter what's written, what our current ballot initiatives say, But I think that's something we can look at. So,
everybody on the county commission seems to be a person of faith. They say too. Do you know whether they get together and pray before the meetings or anything like that? Do you know about that? I know there's always an invocation here, which is nice that we still do that in the county and the city.
Right.
I've actually been invited and done for city council, done the invocation.
Okay.
How do you see that? The sort of operational faith among your colleagues in the commission.
I think we definitely do need to lean on each other. We need to pray more. I think it helps, And so, what does it say in the Bible? I mean, one will put 1,000 to flight, two will put 10,000 to flight. So I'm all about those numbers. Let's keep adding the zeros. There's 5 of us there. So, but I mean, we should pray. We should lean on our faith. We should talk about it. I was real adamant too, during my campaign process, during my election process, every time before we went out and went walking, I would pray for the group. I always wanted to do that, and I made sure that whether there was 20 people there that morning or there was 2, I made sure that let's pray for this group. Let's just say, hey, everybody's safety. Let everybody reach the constituents. Let's get the message out there.
Any final thoughts or comments as we finish up this segment?
Oh man, this has been a time and a half. I mean, I've enjoyed this. So thanks for coming and having me on air. I want to thank Pete, for having me. And this is just great. I mean, I love this. I love the radio interviews. This brings me back to my college days. I was actually a radio student in college.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
Yeah. So it's exciting to put the headphones on and get in front of the microphone one more time.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on your win and looking at the next 4 years. It's a lot of work. The county commissioners, it's a lot of work. So, but you get a good paycheck.
Yeah.
In this one, not so much in the other offices, but this is what I don't know why there's such a disparity, but there is. Well, you've been listening to Cory Applegate, current Fountain City Council member and one of our new county commissioners taking office in January 2025. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman for the Peak Elevated. Cool.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on air.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. This thing.
Well, I would love to stay and hang out, but I've got a city council meeting.
Yeah.
The reason we canceled a couple things happened. One was we had vendors that were set up that were, I guess, liberal, and after the election they people got weird, and then Heidi Ganal got invited to go to a party at Mar-a-Lago the same night that she was supposed to be a speaker at the event, and so we lost. And I was like, I'm not going to go. You got to be at our event. So, you're going to, so we just decided to not, having a bad event is never an option. You never live that down, better to postpone. So that's why we pulled out until after the holidays. But, we're trying to find a date. What I want to, actually I was asking Venus to be on our board for the nonprofit. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't because it's already on some other working boards. But what I definitely want to tap into and find out from him and then go with you all is where, because it's an educational initiative and vocational training and media. Okay, I need to work. We'll try to leave around.
All right. Can I have this for a little bit?
Well, until I get back from the restroom, because then I really need my computer. How much time do you feel?